agree with him. What I felt is that he said the politically correct answer. But what we have to remember, not only I have to say for me, prophetically, God called out Hollywood, but it is Hollywood that God is exposing. It is Hollywood that God is calling out. It is media that God is exposing and God is calling out. So you cannot say, as he said in one of his remarks, he said it is restrictive to men. He also said that men, when they get in power, they act up. Most men, he said men, all men. He almost made it seem like he was saying all men act up when they get in power. And my thing is that, no, not all men act up when they get in power. And no, not all men do that. So you cannot say that. But my point in that is that he said what was politically correct because he knew the arena that he was in, that Hollywood pays his bills. So that's the kind of society that we live in, that they will blackball you for telling the truth. They will blackball you for standing up for Christ. And that's when you know somebody's doing real ministry for real. Because nowadays ministry is money motivated and all these different things. There's some great people out here that are doing amazing things for God. But again, we see what they want us to see. We don't know the backstory. We don't know what they're doing in the backstory. And another great example of that is, I remember when Juanita Bynum, this is public, Juanita Bynum was going around saying, teach me how to love you. But then her and her husband was cussing each other out and beating each other up behind closed doors. So that's why we have to have the power of discernment. We have to know that we know that God has called us to a thing, and we have to stand on it and be ready to stand on it, whether people support us or not. Now, I'll say one more thing. If God is telling you to do it, he will give you a way to deliver it to the spouse, and he will also change the heart of the spouse, because God is not about dividing a home. So that's the difference between whether your flesh wants you to do it or you just want, or you want to do it or God wants you to do it.
I was watching a sermon by Pastor Robert Torrey, and he was saying that a lot of people that got married, God didn't call them into that marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying that you're trying to have this holy relationship with somebody God didn't call you with. Or tell you to marry in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he was saying, he said, I'm going to receive a lot of backlash for this, because in the church, usually you can't say those things because you're supposed to always encourage marriages and things like that. He said, but honestly, God didn't put a lot of these marriages together.
Right. But that's true. And so, again, if you say it, if you stand on it, if you tell the truth, you're shunned. You know, fortunately for Torrey, he has the power of a bigger ministry covering him, so he's not really worried, like he said, for saying what he said. He knows that can't nobody do nothing to him. But if you are a young ministry and you say something like that, of course they're going to eat you alive in the media. But that's where you find out whether or not you're in ministry to win it, if you're in it to stay. So either you're going to say what God told you to say, or you're going to buckle down and say what you want to say or what's politically correct. Because in the end, and at the end of all things, you the one got to face God and deal with judgment for not doing what he told you to do.
And actually, that wasn't the last question. I thought that it was. So Stacy says, I am a stay-at-home mom. I put my all into my kids and my family, but I don't do anything but stay home. I don't go out. I'm actually not allowed to go out without my husband. And she says, I feel empty. I feel like something's missing. And I was trying to have her actually call in, but she wasn't answering her phone, because I wanted her to actually speak to you, because I felt like you would have a word for her, because my spirit just dropped when I heard this.
Okay, to Stacy, I say, you have to understand whether or not you're in a marriage or you're in bondage. And so that, for her, she has to go back and say, God, did you put me here, or did I put myself here, or was I manipulated here? Now that you're there, God does honor marriage. So because you made that decision to be in that marriage, you have to turn around and you have to honor the conditions of that marriage. If you're not happy, then you got to go back and say, how did I get here? Did God put me here, or did I put myself here? And that's the bottom line to it. If you're going to be in that marriage, you know, I tell women all the time, and I'm telling y'all, we have such an amazing power. Think about it. When Jesus returned, he first appeared to a woman because he knew there was something so great in us, something so powerful in us, and our ability to pray and intercede for our husbands. For her, I would say, if the love is there and she feels God put her there, you need to get on your knees and start praying and interceding for your husband, that God will clear his mind, that God will open his heart and change his ways, that he will see her value. You need to spice up who you are. Start walking in happiness and stop being miserable. Because I'm going to tell you, been there, done that. Don't be no nagging wife. That ain't going to do nothing but send him out to play. So what you want to do is you want to get back to loving you, stop complaining, walk in the circumstances that you have, open your eyes up to the attack of the enemy on your marriage, and start walking by faith, not by sight. I don't care what he do, how he acts. I tell the testimony, my husband and I, we separated for 2 years. We're down to the last date of our divorce. The Spirit of God had touched the judge who said, I got to throw this out. Y'all love each other. I'm not giving y'all this divorce, okay? By that time, I was so delivered and so set free by that I believe that, because at first it was an emotional thing, but I still stood on God for 2 years. I stood on God. He was in another relationship, all these different things, and people said, oh, she crazy, she this, she that. I said, no, I trust God. I believe God. Now, mind you, I'm not going to tell you that I didn't accept sometimes, and I'm not going to tell you that was easy, but I did it. I did it. I trust God. I changed my ways. I changed my thought process. I stopped listening to people that would not give me great advice, and I started talking to God. We always want to talk to people. Learn to talk to God. He is the only one that can give you the best answer and can deliver you. If God don't send them to give you advice, don't take it. And I did that, and I began to pray for my husband, begin to fast for my husband, begin to trust God for my husband. When he would come over to visit the kids, I was fine as wine. I made sure that I looked like that same eye candy that he had when he first met me. And eventually, he let her go. God got down to the divorce. We were ready to divorce. We were going to be friends, whatever, and God said no. That's when you get into a stance of faith through relationship with God, that you trust God no matter what. So you got to get back to that, ma'am. You got to get back to trusting God. You got to stop whining, moaning, and complaining and become the good thing, so that he'll say, my wife loves me so much, she can go on and go do what she want to do. You know, now, if that's part of your heritage and accustomed to what your religion is, you know, again, that's what you married. If you wanted something different, then maybe you didn't marry the man that God told you to marry. You only know that. I don't know that. I wasn't there. But one thing I know, that if God put it together, no man can put it asunder. And if God is in it and you're not happy, then you got to get back to God, get your joy back.
Thank you so much. Do you have anything you want to talk about before we end the broadcast?
No, I just want people to check out my website. If they need a spiritual life coach such as myself, go to PastorTanyaBaker.com. Please, please, please subscribe and follow me on Instagram and all over social media at Pastor Tanya Baker. And also check out my church page at theincrediblechurch.org, and again on social media. And I just look forward to meeting some of you guys that will be listening to this podcast and praying with you and also helping you build your life for the better. I know it's going to be great. Oh, one more thing. We are running a special, too, on our coaching classes, so make sure you go to the website and check it out. But the first one's on me.
Thank you. So if we were to summarize how to find strength while operating in your weakness, what would you say? If they didn't get anything else from this podcast, one thing.
So what I would say is how to find strength in your weakness is to identify the weakness. You can't go into a battle not knowing the opponent. So when you identify your battle, the person that you're fighting in the battle, you can then understand it, learn about it, and know and get the tools that you need in order to take the enemy out. Stop going into battles not understanding the fight. And so you can no longer operate in weakness because you don't have the knowledge that you need to know to understand what the weakness is. You will have strength, and strength, the Bible says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. When you get the knowledge, you get the strength, and you become victorious in the battle.
So that was the actual last question, and it concludes today's episode. Thank you so much, Pastor Tanya Baker, for being on today's episode. I hope that this inspired someone, that this touched someone, that this will aid in someone's transformation. Until next time, peace.